Let's go!
All right, cool.
If we could address you directly right now.
Everything comes full circle.
That's number one.
I don't tell him what questions to ask me.
There are a lot of people around town that have the same question.
Brush my teeth. I'm a good watch in the morning.
I can't confirm or deny.
You know, just keep going a little bit longer here, Mike. Keep going a little bit longer.
Ton Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
E, what's going on?
What's going on, Devo? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Welcome everybody to the show. I know it's not Monday, it's Friday, but it was a holiday this Monday, and then me and E had a lot of stuff going on this week. So we're here this Friday, and we appreciate everybody joining. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we'll go over the last two games that Syracuse played, North Carolina and Pittsburgh. But I guess a lot to talk about as far as the NIL movement is going with Syracuse. And E, we were talking about it on the phone. I thought I knew what was going on, but I guess I was completely wrong. So it's a whole nother.
Let's break it down for everybody, because I think a lot of people, there's a little bit of ambiguity as far as what's happening. You know, they hear the coaches say, you know, we're going to have all this money to be able to get our guy and be able to do what we want to do and be able to construct the team how we want to construct it, and, you know, all those different things. But nobody really understands how that's actually going to happen. And one of my questions was, you know, well, if everybody gets, you know, $50 million or $20 million or however it is, you know, doesn't that just kind of add more to everybody's pot? So does that still kind of put us in a deficit? But let's break down how it actually worked and what the House did, and you know, what that means for Syracuse basketball moving forward.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna try to do my best. All right, I might not be 100% right, but Paulie and Jordan, they definitely helped me out to understand it better. What I thought was that the NCAA is giving everyone $20 million, right? They're giving everyone $20 million to their, you know, on top of what they already have. And that's not the case. They're basically just allowing the schools to pay these guys, right? Up to $20 million. I think it's 20.5 or whatever it is. And that money comes from the athletic budget, right? So I guess it really doesn't give much of an advantage to a school like Syracuse, because, and again, that $20 million, they're allowed to disperse that how they want to among all the programs. So that'd be basketball, football, women's sports, lacrosse, whatever it is, right? So if they want to give 80% to football, they could do that. If they want to give 50% to football, they could do that. So I'm not sure, you know, the percentage that they're going to give, but the majority is going to go to football. We know that. That's the moneymaker at every university. So the majority is going to go to football. And then obviously basketball would be second, but basketball isn't getting $20 million. They're not getting $20 million. More than likely they're not. They'll probably get maybe $3 million. Just to be honest.
And that's
like,
what I thought. That's what I thought. So there's $3 million if it does end up being that. Does that really move the needle for us in a way that everybody is kind of expecting, or what can fans expect with this $3 million?
One guy. I mean, honestly, it doesn't help you. Every dollar obviously helps, and you saw they're doing the $50 million campaign over the 3 years. Look, they're still going to have to go out and raise money. You know, they're still behind the bar as far as like competing with the Dukes and the SMUs. I did a game at SMU last week, SMU at Wake Forest, and look, man, SMU is like far and beyond these schools. Like as far as like NIL goes, I was sitting next to the guy who has his name on the court, and he's a multi-billionaire. The oil and the energy and all that stuff that they have going on out there at SMU. They're fine. Like their budget is unlimited. I'll tell you that. So they're not worth. So Syracuse still has to raise all this money, and it's great that they're putting out. You know, we're trying to get 50 million, or it really, I guess, it'd be 30 million. That if they already have 20. But if you're looking at just basketball, all right, you get. So say if football, this is from what I'm hearing, football is going to get 80% of that 20 million or that 20.5, right? So that leaves whatever 3 million for basketball or whatever it is, 3.5. That's going to get you maybe one or two players. That'll get you two players. You still have to raise all the other.
Well, so this is more of a collective issue still. So we're still going back to where our collective has to, because it's, sometimes people get a little bit confused with NIL, and NIL is name, image, and likeness, but that's not really what we're talking about. We're really talking about more of the collective, and that's where the boosters put together in this pot of what then can be paid to players. That's basically what it is, right?
Well, again, it's 20. You only get 20. The schools or the athletic can only give you 20.5, right? All the rest has to come from the donors, right? So if the donors donate through the school, it's tax exempt, right? So for instance, if you got a nonprofit foundation, that's another way you could, and you partner up with a collective outside that's trying to help Syracuse. You could donate to that collective, and then they run it through the nonprofit, and then it's tax exempt. So whatever you donated you don't have to pay the taxes on it, right? So if you find a collective who's partnering up with a nonprofit, you could be tax exempt. If you donate directly to the school, you could be tax exempt. If it's just like a collective who's not partnering with a nonprofit, it's not tax exempt, right? So ideally, go ahead.
But they still have to raise that amount of money in order for it to even be in the conversation. So we're not saying we're back to square one, but the entire issue with Syracuse's collective is that we didn't have enough, from the collective in order to be able to pay players. Correct. So even though that this amount is now made available through the school, that's great, but we still have the same where we have to raise it through the collective. So it's not exactly how, maybe it was being portrayed as being that we're just getting this lump sum of money that now we could just go and get all of these players. It's not quite like that. We still have to raise that amount, right?
Think about this, E. You're probably getting 3.5 million. That's what basketball is getting. Everything else has to be raised just how it is right now. So the school is giving you 3.5 million, and that's not a definite number. I don't know. It could be more. It could be less. Right. But that's what you're getting. So, all right, you get 3.5 million. Now you got to go out and raise the rest. And you got to think, and I don't know, again, all of this is with travel. You still got to be able to pay that. That's all within the budget. Like you're talking about, like if you want to charter the planes to travel, or for, what I mean. I know a lot of times this year, Syracuse they're busing to the places that they would usually charter to just to save some money, so they were able to give more to the players. And I also think, and I could be wrong, and Paulie and Jordan let me know, but it also goes to where there's no walk-ons anymore. So I think you get 15 scholarships. You get 15 scholarship players, right? You're allowed, and you don't have to take all those scholarships. If you want to have 12 guys on the team, you can have 12 guys. If you want to have 13, you could have 13, right? So I think next year there's no walk-ons allowed. So if you have 3 walk-ons right now, and they're not on scholarship, you have a decision to make. Right? Do you want it? So are these guys, are their parents, are they donating a lot of money? So do you want to keep them on? Are they just on because it's a friend of the program, whatever? And if that's it, you probably want to get rid of them because you want to have that spot for a guy who's able to do something, right? If you're a walk-on and your family's not donating a whole bunch of money, you're probably not going to have a spot anymore, which is a whole nother conversation, because now, maybe you're getting money to, play or go to the school or whatever it is. So now that messes up their whole situation. And I know, like for like baseball and swimming and all those sports, they were at like 40 kids. Now they're cutting it down to like 20. Right. So a lot of these kids that are part of these teams aren't even going to be a part of the team anymore. So I don't know, are they going to still be in school because of whatever it is, So That's a whole nother conversation. But they still have to raise all that money. Is what we're talking about. I thought it was completely different.
Yeah, I did too. So what should our fans kind of expect going in? Because this is a big summer for us. This is really, the fans are kind of waiting to see what's going to happen this summer. We know we have this, great recruiting class coming in. They want to see who they could get into the transfer portal to kind of add to this recruiting class. This is really, I know a lot of people are wanting a coaching change right now, but more realistically, after next year, they're probably going to see where we are. And that kind of be the barometer, and just realistically speaking. And so what can fans kind of expect to see going forward? Because that's what's been kind of sold as being the bright spot, that now we're going to have all this money to be able to do all of this stuff. And when you break everything down, it just, there's going to be some more, but not to the point
not
of the level of, not enough. What can fans expect? What can fans expect?
So for basketball, you have to have $10 million, man. You have to. I think you have $8 to $10 million, then you're competing. And it really, honestly, with some of these schools, that might be on the low end. Like
that's what I was going to ask. That's what I was going to ask. What do other schools have? So that comparatively, and I've heard different numbers that are a lot more than $3 million.
Oh, that's. Well, we talked about it earlier, like on an earlier show. Kentucky's starting five budget was $6 million or $5.5 million. They're starting five. So their whole starting five, their whole starting five was getting over $1 million. That's their starting five. There's whatever 15. We talked about VCU. So the school is paying every scholarship basketball player $384,000. That's minimum. That's minimum what they're getting. Every single player to a guy who's not even playing. Right. So I mean, you look at these four guys that are coming in. You got Cayenne, right? And just his name alone, you're gonna have to pay him a lot. Honestly, man, like he is a great player. Right? He's the number one player in New York State. I know he's the top 40 recruit in the country, I believe. You're gonna have to pay him alone just with his name alone. Melo's not having that. My son not coming in there. Look, he's not getting 100,000, whatever. He's getting 800 or more. I would assume. All right, I could be wrong. Sadiq White, he's a 5-star. I mean, he's a 5-star. He's a McDonald's All-American. You would think 500 or more, right? I mean, that's what these kids are asking. The kid from Australia, the kid from Wisconsin. I mean, they're 4 stars, right? So nothing less than 250 for those kids. You know what I mean? Like that's for the 4 guys coming in. Now you got to retain a JJ Starling. You're not going to pay a freshman more than a guy that's playing at I want to say all ACC level. He won't make an all ACC team, but he's averaging 17, 18 points, right? You're not paying an incoming freshman more than him, right? Or a returning player for that fact.
So realistically, just off of the players that you named, that's a lot of our budget right there. That's a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, just do the math. Like, what else do we have left after that to go get our guy, or to go get a big time player in the transfer portal? Like, what do we have left? Because I think people do forget we have to pay the incoming freshmen. The incoming freshmen get paid too.
Well, you don't have any money left if that's the case. Right. If you're working with that $3.5 million, you don't have any left. You don't have enough. I mean, you have to go get a center. You have to go get a point guard. Those are 2 guys. And look, I understand it's a good class coming in and all that, but you need transfer guys. That's the number one thing. I don't know if you heard Rick Pitino talking. He said they're not even recruiting high school kids anymore.
That's what he said,
and that's just the way it is. Like because they're unproven. These high school kids coming in are unproven. Are they talented? Yes, but you don't know what they're capable to do in college. It's a whole different level than high school. Right. It's just different. So you want to get guys coming from, I don't care if it's East Carolina or smaller school, they're proven that, hey, they could play at this level, even though it's not maybe ACC level, but they've proven that, okay, I could dominate at this level. I'm able to step up right here, rather than bringing a high school senior who's playing against, more likely than not, guys who aren't most of those guys they're playing against aren't going to be playing at a high Division I level. Maybe 3 or 4 a night. When they're playing against those IMGs and those Oak Hills, those in their conference, they're not playing against those kids all the time at all. Maybe one other school in their conference has another Division I player or mid-major level guy. This era, it's all about the transfer portal. And if you're going to get big time guys, man, honestly, it's almost like $1 million plus now. We're talking about 500. That's low. That's on the low end right there. So I know we got to take a quick break, but let's continue. We got a lot to talk about this. Let's take a break and we'll come right back, finish it up.
Hey. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. It's not even like so these guys' budgets, there is no budget for these schools. Like seriously.
Had offered signed with St. John's.
Yeah, we got 200 for you.
But that's what everybody's gonna do. Like, who's not gonna do that?
Yeah.
That's the difference that you're talking about. 1.2, and you're saying, hey, we could give you 250, and like, who's gonna take that?
Come on, man. Yeah. Regardless of how much they like you as a coach or not, what the X's and O's, look, that doesn't even matter anymore. Like, that's what I mean. Like, you can't have your staff has to be. It's not about how good of a coach you are. Yes, you want to have guys who know basketball, but what relationship you have with these guys who can bring in money? I don't care what type of relationship you have with the players. That's not going to cut it anymore. I don't care if they love you. Man, listen, 200 compared to $1 million. All right, I'm going this way. That's right. Just what it is.
It almost makes Red's coaching look better this year than what, if he's got, he's been set up to fail, basically.
Kind of. And I didn't want to say it like that, but I do see what you're saying, because he doesn't have the resources.
Yeah.
But look, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you, all right? Because you look at teams like Virginia Tech, they have no talent. And Mike Young's done a great job with them. They got 7 wins in the ACC or 6 wins or whatever it is, and they got way less talent than Syracuse. Just to be honest, like they don't have as – you look at Georgia Tech, they're playing with 6 guys. They're beating Louisville. They're beating Clemson. You know what I mean?
Syracuse beat them. So, let's see how it is at the end of the year. Because has Virginia Tech played Duke and Clemson and all them yet?
I don't know if they have or not. But, I mean, even Virginia, though, Paulie. Like, you look at teams like Virginia, I'm not saying they're doing really good, but they have less talent than Syracuse does. I mean, these guys are quitting because they don't want to deal with it. Like the guy I did the Miami game, and I was talking to Coach Courtney. He literally didn't know what was going on. He got the job in mid-December. Like, my man quit after 9 games, Larry Nega. So he was basically saying, I didn't feel like it was my team until a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's hard, man. Look, and I'm not saying it's easy at all. I'm not saying it is. It's just you have to figure out how to adjust, man. Like, this is how it is now. So, like, you got to be able to put your players in best position to win, man. And I'm not saying Syracuse has the best talent, but they have better than some.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a tough situation, man. It's a tough situation.
Yeah.
But it looks like they spent the money on the wrong positions.
100%.
Like, you got to spend your money more wisely.
So what would
you got to spend your money more wisely?
Yeah, I don't know if I could all the way agree with that one, because you need a center.
Yeah, you do. Eddie's been great. It's just the game's different now, though. Like, you should have gone point guard,
and then have no center.
No, you'd have somebody. But you would probably have the Carlos version of a center. And
yeah, right. I get that. I get that 100%. I agree with that.
I got what you're saying.
You can't. I mean, your center can't be your best player. You need guard play, basically.
The Etan Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
Hey, welcome back, everyone. So, let's get back into that conversation about the NIL. And we were talking about during the break that Syracuse, look, they have more talent than some of these other schools that I guess are doing better this year. We talked about Virginia Tech and Virginia, and they're not doing great, but Mike Young, I thought he's doing a great job at Virginia Tech with the talent that he has, right? Coach Sanchez is doing the best job that he can with the talent that he has, all right? And then you look at a team like Syracuse, they don't have the right. The guys are good. They're not as good as what Syracuse is used to seeing. I would say that, but they do have some talent there, right? So is Red, and he's doing the best he can, right, with limited resources. Is he putting these guys in the best position to succeed? Is there something that he could do better? Did they spend the money, in places that they shouldn't have? What do you think's going on?
Well, I think one of the topics that I've heard a lot was, would this group do better with a different coach? Different philosophy, different structure, different, not necessarily saying better, but just different. And different as far as meaning more emphasis on, defense, fast break, whatever it is. I've just heard that chatter. So let's start there. What are your thoughts about that? Because you mentioned some of the other coaches that were doing better, with less talent, correct? So some of the other coaches, right? So where do you make little changes to as far as what type of a structure would be better for this group? Because I don't think they're as lacking talent as how everybody is making them be. I think we have guys that are definitely capable of having a better overall season than what we've had. That's what I think. You know what I mean? Feel free to disagree. But I do think that with the talent level that we do have, I think that we could have put together more wins. So what do you think?
No, I think I agree. I think defensively, obviously, you start right there. Like, they've just been terrible, right? Guys have been blowing by. There's no rim protection. And you can say Eddie Lampkin, he's not this, he's not that, he's not an athlete. But defensively, like, it starts in the front with the guards. Like, you got to be able to keep guys in front, right? And you could say JJ Starling missed, 7 games, whatever. They've just been bad defensively, right? And if you can't keep guys in front, you got to go to a zone, right? That's what you think. And then you got to be active. You got to be energized in the zone, right? And you talk about, there's too much shooting. Well, when guys are blowing by every time, getting 2 feet into the paint, there's going to be a lot more shooting, right? Because everybody's going to be open on the perimeter. The defense is collapsing. So I think, like, from a defensive standpoint, they just don't have any type of identity. Like, what do we want to do? Are we going to go man to man? Are we going to figure it out? Or are we going to go zone, right? And protect the paint and then just try to get hands up on the shooters. Offensively, with this team, and we talk about, like, Virginia Tech and Virginia, specifically Virginia Tech, they've done a better job in the half court just executing, right? And just, like, having ball movement and getting open shots, because they don't have players who you can just give the ball to and be like, go ahead, create something, right? And we really don't either. Like, besides JJ Starling, give me a guy who could give the ball to and tell him to go ahead. You really don't have that. So offensively in the half court, you have to execute more. You have to be able to get open shots. It's too much iso ball. It's too much, like, helter skelter, and we don't have the guys that could do that. We don't have the guys who the creators. So offensively in the half court, it has to be an offense where it's more continuity, it's more ball movement, and you're putting your guys in position where they're getting more open looks, right? And you need better guards. You need better guards around you. You need better shooting. But this is what we have. I just think offensively in the half court, it has to be better execution, has to be better ball movement. And then defensively, you got to figure out what you want to do. What do you want to play? You going to play man? You're going to lock in? You can figure out? You're going to play zone?
I mean, it could be a combination of both, though. It doesn't have to necessarily just be one or the other. I mean, so I think when you lose, you're going to make a lot of different adjustments. You know what I mean? You're going to have to keep saying, okay, that didn't work. Let's try to see if this will work. You know what I mean? Because I see a lot of people saying, well, why is this guy playing? You know, I mean, well, why is he playing instead of this guy? Well, you know, he was giving you something on offense, but now he wants a little bit more defense. So then you make a change and you have a little bit of a boost in defense, but then you're not scoring as much. You know what I mean? Because the guy who usually scores more is on the bench now. And so it's I understand the tough position that Red has been in. I just hear the chatter a lot as far as saying, you know, would a different, because, you know, first of all, the head coach is the one that's going to get all the praise and all the blame. That's just part of the job. You know what I mean? So when the players play well, the head coach is praised. He did great. His strategy, his everything like this, all broken down. When they lose, everything the opposite, right? So I think that's part of it. But what my question would be is, you know, sometimes we see a little bit of the level of frustration in Red, where I don't think that we should necessarily be privy to that. That's my opinion. You know,
yes.
In some of the interviews, you know, post game, like, so the one time I think it was against Miami, and he said, "Oh, everything was terrible. You know, no defense and no lack of effort, a complete lack of effort, and that's why we lost." Questions, right? That's basically what he said. And then the next day he came, he said, "Well, okay, it wasn't that the guys aren't trying. We're trying. It's not that they're not giving effort." But I'm like, well, coach, you kind of can't do that. You know what I mean? You can't throw everybody. And so that type of thing, you know, and it's been a tough season. It's been a tough season. And there's been a lot of criticism from all sides. And I understand why the fans are upset. I understand why the fans are frustrated. I understand why the fans are even telling us that we're not negative enough. They're like, we're being too easy on the team. We're being too easy on coach. You know, that's some of the feedback that I get a lot. And I understand y'all, but we're trying to break down the particulars of what can be changed, like what we've done well and what we can kind of keep doing, or you know what I'm saying. We don't want to come on here and just say we suck. You know what I mean? That's what y'all do on it.
Well, that's the easiest thing to do.
It's easy to do that. You know what I mean? So like there's a lot of positives that we could point to in the first half of the Pitt game that were good. We played good defense. We caused 4 turnovers in the beginning 5 or 6 minutes of that game. That's good. Chris Bell had a great game. He's been struggling all year shooting. He had a great shooting night. What did he hit? 7 threes? 6 threes? That's great. You know what I mean? And to be able to capitalize on that, you know, but now, of course, the second half was completely different. But in the first half, it was so good for us that Pitt crowd was booing them. That's how well we were playing. So, yes, why were they booing them? Because of the defensive effort that we had, the way that we were scoring, the way that we were out-hustling them. So we could point to that. Now we have to talk about what happened in the second half, and that's a totally different story.
As it did, and then that's where consistency comes in, right? We don't show us glimpses, 20 minutes, and then the next 20 minutes just go back to, not giving any effort and just letting guys blow by it. And honestly, for guys, coaches came in this season expecting what Chris Bell played like in the first half against Pittsburgh. That's what they expected him to be this whole year, right? They expected him to give that type of shooting ability, and rightfully so, because he had a really good year last year. He showed he's had games where he had 30 points and he shot the heck out of the ball. So, I mean, why wouldn't you come into this season thinking all right, we have one of the best shooters in the ACC, maybe the country, coming in, spacing the floor. He's 6'7". All right, he didn't have a great season last year, rebounding the ball and playing defense, but I think he's ready to take that step up. We talked about that, so now his effort on the defensive side of the ball, rebounding, is going to be better. That just hasn't been the case, right? It's been so inconsistent for him this year. I mean, he hasn't had a good year at all, just to be honest. Offensively, he hasn't been good. He's shown glimpses like the first half against Pitt. He's shown glimpses of what he could do. This is what the coaches thought he was going to give us all year, right? So that, and he's a big piece. He was really supposed to be the second best player to JJ Starling offensively, right? I mean, when we really haven't been a great shooting team at all. When you're lacking shooting, you better be so good defensively. You know, and I'm talking about like a team like Florida State, and even they've been struggling, and they're really good defensively. They lead the conference in blocks and steals, and they're still struggling because they don't have any shooters. You know, so if you need to be having those shooters, and then you talk about point guard play. They thought Carlos was going to come in. He's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year at Hofstra. They thought that he was going to be better on the ball, point of attack, guarding the ball. It hasn't been, just to be real, and maybe that was their mistake because Hofstra is a whole different level. Hofstra is not the ACC. You're getting ACC is way more versatile athletes and just better overall, right? So that hasn't happened. He's done a pretty good job of distributing the ball at times, but not good enough at this level. And that's no slight to these guys, man. It's just being realistic in what you have to do at Syracuse, right? To have good teams.
But I think that, so a lot of people are saying, and I think, Paulie said this in the break, but I've heard a lot of people say that maybe we spent too much money on our center and not as much on a point guard. And with that, I'm like, I think Eddie Lampkin has done a good job this year. I do.
He's done really good.
The energy that he brings, to every single game, the way that he's playing, that style, I can't really fault him in his effort and how he's been playing to say that, we should have spent the money someplace else. I can't say that. Now, I understand that the record doesn't show as far as, where our expectations were. But as far as how he has been playing, I would say that I can't criticize him to that point because I think that he's been consistent in his effort.
Honestly, he's probably had the best season he's ever had in college. If you go look back at the numbers, this is probably the best year that he's ever had. I think he's had his career high in points, his career high in rebounds. So he's actually came in and given more than expected, just to be real. But the type of guy, the type of center that we need to how this team is made up, you need a different type of guy. You need a guy who's going to be like an enforcer around the rim, a guy who's going to be a rim protector, block shots, a guy who's going to run the floor, a guy who could switch on pick and rolls. He's not that guy. You could feed him the ball, and he's a great passer. He's a great rebounder, and he's got better at scoring. But if we need better guard play, if you're going to have a guy like that. You know what I mean? You need a better point guard if you to win in college basketball now, in basketball period. You have to have good guards. I don't care how good your bigs are. If you have a really good big and not so good guards, you're not going to win. That's just how it is because they're just going to double down on your big, make him pass out to the guard, and you're passing out to a guard who can't make a play or can't make a shot. It doesn't even matter. You have to have a different type of. So I'd rather have a big who's a rim runner, a guy can catch lobs, who's going to block shots, who's going to switch on the pick and rolls, and then have a point guard who can make plays, get into the lane, drive and kick, hit the open jump shot if the guy's going under the pick and roll. I'd rather have that. You know what I mean? And that's no slight to Eddie Lampkin. He's had an unbelievable year, just to be honest. I think, like I said, probably the best year in his college career. But yeah. And you can't you can't say that they spent the money wrong on him. They needed a center. It's just, I think the makeup of the team, they had to look at that before they got him and be like, man, we have to have better guards. But let's take a quick break and come right back, and we'll continue talking about it.
Orange Nation.
Pat in Syracuse.
I was very interested in Jordan's shirt attire. You just have a fire shirt on. I just can't believe it. It looks like, what colors? Help me out here.
It's like a light tan vibe.
We got to talk about, I forget, Donnie Freeman being out too. That's a big thing.
Yeah, that's true too.
I mean, JJ was out 7 games. Donnie Freeman's been out, I don't know how many games, but it's been a lot of shifting too. I don't want to put it all on Red, man, but like you said, the head coach is the head of the snake, dude. You gonna get the brunt of the criticism. That's just how it go.
Yeah, that's how it is. You know what I mean? That's how it is. That's how it works.
Hey, Paul, no disrespect. You watch it, man.
I know. I hear you. I'm not one of those. I'm not trying to criticize. I'm just trying to speak how my truth.
Oh no, I got you. But guys take it personal, man.
Huh?
Some guys take it personally. Ain't nothing personal now.
Yeah. I just think he played well this season. You know what I mean? I do. But
for real.
He has, but in hindsight, it just isn't the guy you needed right now.
Well, that's what we were saying. It's just not. If you're you have to have better guard play if you're gonna have a guy like him, man. You have to, like, a dominant guard. And JJ's been playing good, but he's not a great shooter. So you could just it's things you could do if you're not, you just go like this in the lane, and then I don't know. You have to be shooting the ball.
Hey, Paulie, did you get that clip I sent you?
Yep, we got it.
All right, so okay, cool. So I sent them a little clip of the PK Subban. But I do want to see what your thoughts are about it.
You want to go talking to that now instead? We could keep going and talk about this the whole time.
Yeah, let's try to talk about this. I mean, there's always somebody. You know what I mean? Let's try to venture to this a little bit.
Yeah, because this could be this could be for.
I know.
Someone is asking in the chat a good question. I asked this yesterday on the air. How is it on the coaches that Chris Bell can't put the ball on the floor yet after 3 years? Like, you can't slide him. Like if he wants to play even overseas, he's got to learn how to dribble, right?
I mean, I don't know what conversations the coaches are having with him. Like, I'm not saying they're not. I mean, it's both, right? You want to be. I'm sure they're getting in the gym working with him, right? I mean, that's their job. I'm sure they're talking to him about, hey, you got to improve and this and that. At the end of the day, it's up to him. He got to do it. He got to be in the gym working on his stuff. I can't say if the coaches they are doing this, they're not doing this. I can't. That goes on the player ultimately. If you're not improving for real, like, because regardless if the coaches are working with you or not, you got a choice to make. I'm gonna be in the gym working on my stuff.
I'll have a little bit different opinion. I think that a lot of times with the coaches and the way they drill you and what the assistant coaches especially are supposed to do, what their job is to be able to improve different players at different positions. You have specific position coaches. So if you have one player that the freshman year, they do this, well, what are y'all working on every single day when y'all do y'all individual workouts that you don't add something to their game? That's literally what your job is to do. So, I got to say, yeah, if you have any kind of deficiency or whatever it is, you have to look at the position coach specifically that he's working. I don't know who he's working with, but whoever it is, they work with him every single day.
Well, I don't know who's working with the forward. Who's working with the forwards and the guard? I don't know. I mean, who is it, Paul?
Could you imagine if they could just slide him up to the 2 and let JJ,
Who did the 2?
Throw some of the ball in your hand.
Right? Yeah, and who would be at the 1, JJ?
Yeah.
Man, we tried that a little bit in the beginning of the year, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, he tried it. Right.
We tried that. It just wasn't quite working.
But then defensively,
watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. This is the Etan Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
Welcome back, E. Let's go into. I know there was a clip of. Go ahead, because I forgot the guy's name. He was talking about the NHL and the NBA and how basically the NHL is better at it.
So for us, when we charge $1,500 for a ticket to come to fans know what they're getting. Cale Makar, the best defenseman in the world, wasn't in the lineup for this game. This was the most viewed game that we've had in years. And you see it, it's because it's not just based on the skill and talent. It's based on the pride, honor, playing for the guy next to you. I got a question for the NBA players. What the hell are you playing for? What are you playing for? It's not about the money. You make all the money. What, you're injured? Well, there's a difference between being hurt and injured. Are you hurt or are you injured? There's a difference. In hockey, we play hurt. We play injured. That is the culture of the sport. It's always been that way. So you want to talk about the business, the CBA. Fans get all of that. But what do fans resonate with? They resonate with what's real.
Okay, E. So are you hurt or are you injured? Because he said they play both. They play hurt and injured, but like he kind of contradicted himself right there.
I disagree with everything that he said. Just because he made the barometer of playing injured is somehow giving your all, for the fans, and I completely disagree with that. And I understand as a professional, you're going to have times where you're hurting. But that's not what he was saying. I understand that if his point was that, which is where they started the conversation, that LeBron missed the All-Star game. And if he just said, well, he could have kind of let everybody know beforehand so somebody else could have gotten that All-Star spot that he was not going to play. But that wasn't his point. I could see if he would have said that the All-Star, players should have played harder to make the All-Star game better and more competitive. But that wasn't his point either. He took it a whole different level. And the NHL, we do this and we do this and we fight for our teammates and we're standing there for our brother and we give the fans everything that they can, and I'm like, wait a minute. Because you play injured? That's what you're saying? And I completely and wholeheartedly disagree with that. I don't want any player from any sport to play injured. Ask RG3 if he doesn't regret playing injured. You know what I mean? He's talked about it. I remember seeing guys, and I'll tell this real quick. Jarvis Hayes, you remember that player? He was like a 12 pick for the Wizards. Yes, could shoot the lights out. He was athletic as all get out, everything like that. Well, during our years with the Wizards, he had a hurt knee, and his knee was hurt for a while. I remember seeing GM Ernie Grunfeld convincing him to try to play. You know what I mean? Just give us 60%. Just give us 70%. The fans want to see you play. You're a good player. You can play through it. We'll give you this pain medicine, maybe a little cortisone shot, and, you play through it. And he ended up messing up his whole career. His knee got worse. It ended up a broken knee. But I can tell stories like that all the time. I never want to tell a player to play injured for the fans. Because the fans want to see you play? That's what you're telling me? Like his whole everything and comparing it to the NHL, I really disagreed with his entire point.
Yeah, well, he got his little marketing piece in there real quick too for the NHL to try to get the NHL going a little bit more. I don't watch hockey at all. I'm just gonna be real. Like I know the Detroit Red Wings have always been good, and I'm from Michigan, so I'm gonna cheer for the Red Wings. But I don't watch hockey. I'm not gonna sit down, and I don't know who's paying $1,500. $2,500 a ticket. That must be a suite with some food and some drink and all that. But the average ticket would be, I don't know, $50 to get into the game. That's what I think. So a lot of the stuff that he was saying is crazy. But yeah, E, to your point about being injured, like, what's the severity of your injury? Like, can you play on this and it's not going to get hurt, right? Or you're not going to continue to make it worse. You talk about Jarvis Hayes, like if my knee is messed up and I can't play, and if I'm playing, then it's going to get worse, then I'm not playing, right? If I'm coming back from a sprained ankle and the doctor says, hey, even if you play on it, it can't get any worse, right? You know what I mean? It's kind of is where it is. It's 80%, but it's not going to get any worse if you go out there and play. Then I'm going to play. I'm just going to tape it up, double it up. I'm going to wrap it up even tighter, right? But if it's a chance of me tearing another ligament or messing up further, you can't play. Like, regardless of what my man was saying, oh yeah, you're tough. You're trying to be. You're showing them that you could play through things. Like, man, listen, I got a family to feed, right? I got a career that I want to try to make it longer than 1 year, right? I'm in this thing for longevity, because you're playing not for the first contract, you're playing for the second and third, right? And to be able to get to those second and third contracts, you got to be healthy. You got to try to be 100%, because if you're not 100%, you're not going to give everything on the court that you got. You're not going to be capable what you're really capable of. Like Embiid, right? We've seen what he looks like fully healthy. We've seen what he looks like not fully healthy. I don't know if he's hurt to where it's not allowing him to play. Or look, my thing is, if you're hurt and you can't play, don't play. But if you're playing in back-to-backs and you're just trying to rest your body, that's a whole nother thing, right? You got to play.
To your point, though, But to your point, though, you mentioned Embiid. We saw Embiid dragging his one leg up and down the court, trying to, do things. Remember when he was playing in the playoffs and his whole side of his face was not moving? Obviously, he took something to try to get pain pill. Look, I've seen guys really be shot up with all these different things to be able to play the big game because the fans want you. I'm like, no, if you're injured, go sit down. You cannot. You hear those notions like, remember, you would see written on the wall, like locker rooms or something like that, pain is weakness leaving your body or stuff like that. I'm like, no. That's the type of mentality that gets. So all you had to do is go and see like Retired Players Association and see the players from the 80s and the 90s who the 80s and 70s who they always glorify, that played through everything. They say how, this player played with a broken this and Pistol Pete played with a hole in his heart. And they tell all these crazy stories. And you see these guys and they can barely walk and they're my age.
And they're
my age. Right. They can barely walk.
Yeah.
So while PK, is saying all this different stuff that the players owe this to the fans and all, show them those players that did that and played injured and now they can barely move and they're in their 40s. You know what I mean? Like, no, you don't play. And then another part that he did was he was like trying to make this false equivalency to, missing an all-star game, which, oh yes, we want the all-star game to be better. But then he said, us NHL players, we had this pride in our country, and sometimes you have to fight for your country. And I was like, now you're making it something different. You know what I mean?
But you're playing on it.
Did they just win a gold for their country? Now you're trying to question their patriotism. Now you're trying to question all these different, coded language and things like that he's into. It's like he went there with an agenda. And I was like, what are you trying to do, PK? Like, what is your real agenda here? Your agenda is really showing that you're trying to do something else. Like I said, if it was just that you want the all-star game players to play harder, everybody can agree with that. You know what I mean? That's easy, but don't make it something that it's not.
No, you're right. Let's take a quick break and we'll come back and finish the conversation.
Former Syracuse basketball player, Etan Devo.
Are we to 55, right?
I play injured every day.
4 minutes, dang. Okay.
The thing, it confused me when he said about. Yeah.
I do want to ask you, Eric, see this about the conversation, and I saw the clip, and I was going to try to give it to Paul, but people have seen it enough, where Red was talking about whose kind of decision it was going to be, him or Wild Hack, as far as the changes that was going to be made and what was going to happen. And it was like it was an interesting exchange. I'll say it like that.
You talking about the last clip with him and Gomez?
With him and Gomez, yeah, he was talking to Gomez. Did you saw that, right?
Yeah, where he was basically saying, is Wild Hack going to be involved in the?
Yes, it was a weird exchange to me. I don't know. To me, it sounded a little weird.
Well, it didn't sound certain.
No. He was asked if he was going to add more coaches to his staff because they can add 2 more coaches, and he said, I'll make that decision, but Wild Hack will ultimately make it.
What, two more coaches?
He just worded it really weird.
Well, he's going to add 2 more coaches. Well, yeah, it's not his decision because Wild Hack is going to say how much you could pay him, and nobody's just going to come on for $50,000 unless you want to get like a grad assistant or something like that. And how is that really going to help the program, adding a guy who has no experience or who has no basketball knowledge?
Oh, okay, so Jordan's saying it's a different one that who evaluates him. Of course, Wild Hack evaluates him at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
At the end of the year, when you guys are reevaluating changes, is that a group decision with the athletic department?
Yeah.
Like blah, blah, blah. And that's when coach was like, if I need something, then yeah, John Wildhack, I'll talk to him, but it's basically just me reevaluating the program.
That's the conversation
The
I'm talking
coaches,
about.
he just keeps saying, like, we'll worry about it at the end of the season. He's obviously not going to talk about coaching changes or additions now.
Yeah, I didn't hear the coaching changes one. I heard that part where he was talking about evaluating, and he was saying it was kind of like, I'm the one who's making the decision, and if we need Wild Hack to put in his input, but that's only if like it was a weird exchange. I was like, huh, that was interesting.
Well, I guess
ultimately he's the one that's going to get fired for it, though, right?
Yeah,
you know, so he's got to make the decisions.
Yeah, but that's not how it always works, because you have GMs and the GMs hire somebody, but the coach takes the blame if it don't work. That's the way that it works sometimes.
And he doesn't have as much pull as Boeheim, basically, but he wanted to.
No, but I think people should get from the way he's talking. He knows he's coming back next year. Is the way I
got that he wants to come back next year. Not that he knows, but he wants to come back next year. But you
better make the ACC tournament.
Come back next year, but Wild Hack, and it's, I don't know. It just.
We got Wild Hack coming on next week. I'll ask him.
It was an interesting segment. It was an interesting little segment. That's all.
But Paulie, they're not going to say 100% what it is either. Let's just be real. Like
if he's staying, John will come out and say he's staying. If he doesn't say it, then Red should start worrying.
Well, even more so, not even just the staying versus not staying, just as far as who's going to make the decision on adding, I thought that's what they were talking about. Who's going to make the different decisions, and if it's going to be coach or if it's going to be Wild Hack. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, and what Red said was, I'll decide what I need, and I'll go to Red, and I'll go to John, and he'll make the decision if I do it or not.
But now that budget takes away from the paying the players, because that comes out of the same budget. If you want 2 new coaches, you want better players.
That's fair.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. This is the Etan Devo Show. Here are former Syracuse standouts Etan Thomas and Eric Devendorf.
We were talking on the break. It was a good conversation. We were talking about what Red and Gomez kind of were going back and forth, and basically Gomez was asking Red. Go ahead. I'll let you say it. I'll let you talk about Red.
Asking him as far as the changes and different things that were going to happen in the off season. After this season is over, and I guess Red was kind of saying, well, I'll make those decisions, and it was kind of like if there was going to be input from Wild Hack, and it was a little bit of it was an interesting answer. That's all. It was an interesting answer. It didn't look like they were all on one accord and they've discussed this and know the exact plan yet. I'll say that. I think it was more of, he, of course, as a head coach, you want to be the one that's making the decision, but it doesn't seem like it's him making the decision. So it's a little bit of, that's what I got from it. What did you hear?
Yeah, it didn't seem certain. It didn't seem like when you say something and you're certain, it's a little bit of confidence that exudes, right? I didn't feel that that confidence coming out of him when it was a little bit of stuttering. And so look, again, like when you're the head of a program, you're the head of the basketball program, you want to feel like it's you're doing, right? Like you have control of that. And I just think right now that may not be the case. Like you're going to have to go through it. Look, you haven't been there for 50 years. You're not a Hall of Famer. So it's different. It's a different situation, right? And you're going to have to go, to the athletic director and see if this is okay. Ultimately, I guess. And we were talking about how they were saying, bringing in 2 new coaches. I don't see. Look. If you're going to bring in new coaches, you're replacing one of the other ones right now because you're not adding coaches, and then that's coming from the athletic budget. That's taken away from getting players. You don't want to do that. If you're replacing one of the coaches now with the new coach, that's how you do it if you want to be able to save money, because look, Red, I think Red is going to be there next year ultimately because Syracuse isn't going to want to pay those extra 2 years out on his contract plus another guy. And if you want to pay another guy, it's going to have to be more than you're paying Red now, unless you want to get a guy who hasn't been a head coach at all. If you want to get a guy who's been a head coach, you're going to have to pay him $5 million a year at least. That's at least. Like Red right now is in like $2 million or whatever it is. They're able to get away with that because this is his first head coaching job. They could get away with paying Fran Brown $3 million right now. That was his first head coaching job. Fran Brown just won 10 games in his first year. That's only going to go so far. You don't pay that man going forward, he's out of there. And that's just how it is. Do they want to? They fire Red. Do they want to pay those 2 years? That's $4 million, right? You're paying $4 million plus you're paying another $5-6 million, right? So you're paying $10 million.
1 minute.
Right? It's just it's a lot. No, I don't think it's going to happen either. It's a lot. I think if they want to make a coaching change, they got to make a coaching change. It's going to be a plus minus thing. It's not going to be an add-on thing. They got to keep that money for the players. So we got about 30 seconds, and Syracuse has North Carolina State coming up. North Carolina State and Cuse are it's Cuse and then it's North Carolina State. It's right here. It's not a lock for the ACC tournament right now. Give me your thoughts.
We got to win this game. We cannot lose to NC State. We cannot. If we lose to NC State, we're probably not going to be going to the ACC tournament. That's basically what it boils down to. We cannot lose to NC State. So that there's nothing else that needs to be said. We can't lose that game.
You can't lose to NC State. I mean, look, it's not been a good year, but you want to be able to get into the ACC tournament. Just last year, North Carolina State went on a run where they were playing terrible during the regular season. They ended up going to the Final Four. Can Syracuse do that? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's not likely. But you can't lose to NC State. So, I thought it was a great show today, great conversation. I'm looking forward to next week. We'll see how Cuse does in their upcoming games, and we'll chop it up even further about what's going on.
Sounds good. Great show.
All right. Appreciate everyone tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.